Yo, how's it going, folks? It's me again, your boy Tabo. And yeah, this is another lesson on SVG for the web. And today we're going to be creating paths. Now, like I said before, paths are a little bit complicated, but after explaining this, then you should have a good understanding of how paths work. So we're just going to start. I'm going to start creating my HTML file here. Okay, now we're going to create an SVG. Create my SVG. And I will give it a width of 100%, and I'll give it the height of 2000. Okay, awesome. So now we'll create my path. I create the path using path element, and the attribute that we'll be using to represent the points will be d. So I'll say d is equal to, and then inside this is where we will plot the different points and use the different commands for the different types of points. So the first point that I will introduce you to is M, stands for move to. It determines where your point is going to start. You've got, with all the commands that you have for drawing paths, you have an uppercase command and you have a lowercase command. The difference between them is that the uppercase command represents the absolute position, meaning that when you specify, for instance, x10 and y10 coordinate, then it will be exactly on that position. Whereas relative, it just means that it will move 10 points from whichever position it is currently at. So if the point is already at position 10 and then you add 50 more points, then it will, using the lowercase m, then it will move 50 points from position 10, which it already is in. With the uppercase m, it would just move 40 units. So it will just go to position 50, to the 50th pixel or unit on your canvas. So that's how these two work. That's the difference. So we're gonna then draw our first shape. So I'm gonna create a simple square, and the command takes two values, the x and y coordinate. So we'll start at 10 for x and y, and then from there I will say h 100. So I've moved 90 points, and then I will say v, and then I will move another 90 points, and then I'll say h again. And then I'll say 10, and then I'll say v and 10. Okay, so I will fill it with the color of magenta, and then I will give it a stroke color, black, and then specify a stroke width, and the stroke width will be 3, and then I will close my shape. Okay, so so now there we go. That's the path that I just drew, and to just illustrate this better, just so that you can understand, I will change this value to 200, and let's see what that does. See, so now it's more rectangular, and if I wanted to stretch it more on the vertical line, then I would do the height, then I would say 300 here, and so this is how these commands work. So this is how you would draw a basic square, but this is the thing with the h and v. you can only really create simple shapes because each and every command takes one value. You cannot really draw any dynamic shapes. You can mainly draw rectangles and squares. That's what you're limited to. Now we're gonna draw another path. And this time we're gonna use other commands. We're gonna add the other commands that are available to you. So we'll start again with M, and then I will say this time I will start from position 50. I'll say 50 on the X, 50 on the Y, and then I will say horizontal. I will move 100 units. And now another new command that I'm going to introduce you to is L, which stands for line to. What line to means is that it just draws a line from whichever position you're in currently. It takes two values, X and Y. So you can specify which the X and Y coordinates that you would like to draw a line to. So in this case, I'm gonna draw a line to 125 and then 100. And then I will draw another line to 100 and then 150. And then I will draw a horizontal line to 50. And then another line to 25 and then 100. Now let's see what that looks like. I will give it a fill of red, and then I will also add a black stroke to this shape, and then the stroke width will be 3 once again. Okay, there we go. So now let's see what our shape looks like. Okay, there we go. So now I just drew a hexagon like shape, but you can see where the strokes are, there's one part which is missing. Now the reason why you don't see a stroke there is because I did not specify the values for that. So it is not a closed line or closed loop. That's why it looks the way that it does, but it still has a filling though. The reason why I left that out is because I wanted to introduce you to another important command that you can use, and this command is Z. Now when you add the Z command at the end of your shape, what it does is that it gives you the permission to not have to specify each and every line. Basically closes the line for you. You don't have to specify the last line that will close the shape, but it just automatically closes it for you. So that last value that you don't specify, when you use the Z command, then it just intuitively closes the line for you, so that you have now a closed loop of a shape. And that's all that it does. So now we're gonna go back, and as you can see, this is closed. And yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so that's our second shape now, and I'm gonna return this to the original value so that we have space to work. Okay, that's that. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use a group. Like I've already introduced you to groups, you know what they do. They just allow me to basically you can group many shapes with the group element, but I use it so that I can be able to move them as a group, or to easily move my shape around without having to change these values, because that is a bit tedious. So I will say translate, and then I will move it. I just want to move it along the vertical, along the Y axis, so I'll just move it like 50 units. Let's see what that does. Okay, I'll say 90 units. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. So now we're going to create another path, and once again I'm going to introduce you to another command. So we're going to say M50 and then I'll say 200. The next command I'm going to introduce you to is the curve. Now this is called a cubic Bezier curve. So I will make an example. I will create a simple drawing. Now this does not represent, these values are not realistic. Okay, it's just to kind of make you understand how this works. So I'm gonna draw a line to illustrate how the curve command works. Now let's say I start drawing a line from this point, right? So let's say this is where my point is. This is from this point I'm gonna start creating my drawing. Okay, so let's say I want to draw a point up until here. Okay, so this is not meant to be pretty. Now my curve, I'll write here curve command. It takes 6 values. First, let's say we'll call it x1 and y1, and then the next one will be x2 and then y2, and then the next one we'll say x, and the next one will be x3 and y3. And so now I'm going to illustrate where these points are or what they are. Okay, so let's say we draw a line from that point. Okay, so let's say we draw a line from that point to that point. There we go, we've got a blue line. This line would be represented by, this would be x3 and y3. So this is what this line would be. It would be represented by this value over here. Okay. And so these 2 points here would be the curve. This is with the first one, x1 and y1 would be this curve over here. So I'm gonna do that in a different color. The curves will be yellow. So we'll create a line curve. Let's say we pull the curve from here to this point, the first point, and then okay, this point would be x1, and then this point over here, this would be x2 and y2. Okay, so this is how you would draw the points. You first start with x1, you specify x1 and y1, and then you specify x2 and y2, and then you specify x3 and y3 as the last value. Here I just drew a straight line just to show you that that point, this point over here, x3, will run from here to there. And then what will happen, what these points will do, is that they will then create a curvature, and this curvature would run something similar to this. This is not an exact, these are not exact values, this is not exactly how it would look like, but just to show you what that would do. So this is the straight line that runs from there to there, which is specified by this value over here. And what these curves would do then, by specifying these values, then they would pull up and then they would pull this curve. So you would not have a line here, but instead you would have a line running like that. Okay, so this is what you would be left with. Okay, so that's what the curve does. This is how you would use the curve. So I just wanted to illustrate that so that you have a picture of exactly how this works. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to our code and then we'll continue. Okay, so first I specified these 2 values, and so the next one will be C. It'll be a capital C, and then I will give it a value of 50 and 200, and then I will put, so this is x1 and y1, and so the second one will be 100, and then I'll say 200. Then we leave a space, put a comma, and then I will specify the point that I want to plot the line to, and this will be 100 by 250. And then I will specify another curve, and then I'll say 100, 300. Now these are different ways that you could plot these values. Let me go back. So now we're gonna create the curve. So this is how you would specify the values. Say x 50, then space, then you say y 200, and then I put a comma. And so the next set of values will be 100 space 200, then a comma, and then the next one will be 100 250, and then 250, no comma. Okay, so now we're gonna plot the next set of curve values, and say 100, 300, and then we'll say 50, 300, and then another 50, 300. And so I'm gonna fill it with color purple, and then we'll give it a stroke of black, so black stroke, and then stroke width, we'll make it 5, just to make it stand out. Okay, so after that, then we close our shape, and let's have a look what that looks like. Okay, there we go. We've got our shape there. There it is. So once again, I'm gonna okay, so there we go. I've created half a circle. I can maybe make it gray. Okay, there we go. So now I've got half a circle there. So this is what the curve command does. I've got, if I had to illustrate to you, I have basically the points running like that and then pulling this curve. Otherwise it would have been a straight line. So the curves are pulling it this way. That's why you get this shape right here. Okay, so I'm going to stop with these 3 shapes so you can take what we've learned today and just play around with it. See what other complex shapes you can come up with, just get comfortable. And then in the next lesson, we're going to continue with some more parts and more commands to work with. So until the next lesson, love and peace, my brothers and sisters. I'm out. If you thought this video was good and helpful, please press that like button. For any questions or input, just remember to leave a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe to my channel and I'll keep more stuff coming your way.